What is up, everyone? Welcome to Toffee Blues USA, your source for all things Everton, American style. Joining me today, I have new friends. It's great. Joining me today for the first time, we've got Chris from Gateway Toffees joining us. Chris, how are things?
Hey, I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excited to talk to you, man. So Chris, just before we get into Gateway Toffees, Chris, what do you do? What's life like for Chris?
Yeah, so Chris Daughtry, not the singer, is a father of 4 girls, and I'm an assistant superintendent of schools in my real job when I'm actually doing work. So started out as a teacher and then just kind of worked my way up through the ranks, principal, and then I was a superintendent for a while in Indiana, and then moved down here to St. Louis to get what I'd call my second returnement, even though I don't feel like I should be in that age category. But I guess I'm getting close. So
you seem young. That's the thing. Like I feel like I'm talking to a guy who seems like he's around my age, and then I'm like super intimidated now by you're like, oh yeah, I was a principal and I'm a assistant superintendent. I'm like, that's awesome, and you've achieved so much, and you seem young. Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Lucky on the journey. So sometimes you're in the right place, or somebody thinks, oh, he's got some talent. Very misinformed they were, but I'm here. So it is what it is.
Hey, what did you teach, by the way?
I was a 3rd grade teacher when I started out. So yeah,
right on.
I was the only male in my elementary school, so I was absolutely a rock star amongst the kids. It was a great gig.
I still maintain we need a lot more guys teaching elementary school. I just saw my old high school assistant coach the other day at a 5K event. He came up and said, "Hey," and it turns out he's teaching 4th grade, and I was like, "That is awesome." I'm just thinking about having. There was one male elementary school teacher I ever had, and he was the only one in the school. So you're right, man. There's not many. It
was a lonely job, but it was awesome. So the kids loved me. I was all-time quarterback every time I went out to play football on the playground. So, and they all thought I was great. I was like John Elway, so you could fool them.
Nice, very cool, Chris. I appreciate the caveat, making sure people know that you are not the singer. That's helpful. The people listening via podcast would have been curious the whole time. So Chris, talk to us about Gateway Toffees. I know the answer to this, but I'll let you break it in. How long have Gateway Toffees been around?
So we are so old. We've had like 2 watch parties. So, and it was the brainchild of Jeremy Reminger, who's another guy here locally in St. Louis, who joined we had kind of a loose Facebook group for a long time, but no real organization with it. And I went down to Florida for the Florida Cup, and I see all these cities that have got like these awesome supporter groups. They're all standing around having a great time, and it was a lonely place to be when you're like the only person from St. Louis there walking around. And so Jeremy had gotten on our Facebook group and said, "Hey, is anybody interested in starting a club?" I got back with him. I'm like, "Hey, let's meet up and talk about it." And it was funny because the night that we did, he's a big Indianapolis Colts fan. I was from Indiana before I came here. I was walking into this random bar that we were meeting at, and some guy stops me. He's like, "Hey, you an Everton fan?" Because he saw my hat on. I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "You know where people watch the matches around here?" Well, just so happens I'm meeting with somebody tonight. And then the irony of everything was that like the dessert, my wife and I actually met he and his wife, and the dessert that night, because he had already eaten, we had already eaten, was a like toffee spice cake at the restaurant. So I'm like, this is all in the stars. It was meant to be. And so we just started from there and contacted Everton. They've been great to work with to help us get started, probably like everybody else's experience. And it blew my mind that like as big of a football/soccer town as St. Louis is, that there wasn't a supporters club there that was official with the club. So we decided we needed to rectify that. And we're starting to see more people that are getting interested and coming to hang out with us to watch matches. And that's really the awesomeness behind all this, because there was this weird feeling of sitting in your living room alone watching the matches and trying to hold your screams back when your kids are sleeping, all that kind of stuff. Now I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can be with other crazy people. So
yes. So St. Louis, we have a decent amount of folks that are from England that watch and listen to the show. So give a brief little intro to St. Louis for the folks that don't know a whole lot about St. Louis. I've been there once in my life, but I'm not going to do that to you where I'm like, hey man, I was at the Arch. Let's talk about that. No, I'm not doing that to you. I respect you too much already. So give a little bit of background on St. Louis, a little rundown for the folks who don't know.
Yeah, St. Louis is it is the Arch. That's what everybody does when they come to St. Louis. I joke about that, but it's like everybody's Facebook page, if you look, has got a picture of them at the Arch at some point in their lifetime. So, and it's funny because when you live here, you never go to the Arch. It just sits there and you look at it all the time. But St. Louis is just that it's a great middle of the country, old industrial town type city. Kind of got a little bit of grittiness to it. It's got a great football, soccer history. And most of the guys that played on the World Cup team back in, I think it was in the 50s, that actually beat England. I hate to say that. If you have some England fans that are on here, were from like a little Italian district here in St. Louis. And they all grew up together, played in the neighborhood. Great history here as far as that goes. Good foodie city. And just kind of one of those, kind of on par with a lot of your like industrial middle of the country type cities at one time. And so, yeah, neat place. I've lived here for a few years, but we've got family that lived here for a longer period of time. And that's how we kind of got hooked up and ended up down here.
So what's your relationship with the sport?
Well, I didn't start as a soccer fan. In fact, I was a baseball, football, basketball kid growing up in small towns. And it wasn't until like I look back at like I think it was the 2014 World Cup when we played Belgium, and we went to like one of the stadiums in our area at the time was hosting a big watch party. Took the kids down, went, and I just got hooked. And Tim Howard was playing, and he was standing on his head against Belgium, and that was the only thing that was keeping us in that game. And I'm like, I love this. And so I started following the team that he was playing for loosely, which was Everton. And I don't know, the history, man, it's just something that gets in you. I was an old baseball fan growing up. I was a Chicago Cubs kind of guy growing up because I grew up in the Midwest. And this team kind of just reminds me of that same vibe. Plays in a really cool place, a lot of history, and even more history than what we've got as far as it goes. So I just got hooked. And from there, I've been a fan ever since.
Very cool. I think with some folks, so you didn't grow up like playing the sport much.
Nope.
So some folks that I've talked to, like it took them a little while to kind of be able to watch the sport and be engaged the whole time if they didn't grow up playing it. Because I feel like a lot of, for some folks, they grow up playing it, so they know what people are going through. They can pay attention a little bit more.
Yep.
I know I got a buddy at work who's a big hockey and baseball and American football fan, and I had to really talk him into watching games. And it's just a different type of experience watching a soccer game. So with you just kind of got into the World Cup and were psyched with the US experience, and you were just wow.
I like it's the history, but I also told somebody, it's like before I ever got into it, I'm like, how can you watch something that's 0-0 and then that's acceptable? And you feel like that was a good match. But then as you watch it, you start to realize it's that anticipation that really is what draws you into it. And there's no timeouts. You have halftime, but there's no timeouts. You always have constant movement. So I got into my blood. And it's funny because I grew up your typical NFL fan, your typical NBA fan. I would say that this is my default now I'm way too into it if you ask my kids and my wife. They think that I've completely gone off the deep end. So.
Gotcha. That seems like that means you're doing something right, I think. I get it. Very cool. So so you were able to go to Florida, which is cool. That was one of my questions. So you already got to that. Have you been able to get over to? Have you ever been able to get to Goodison?
I have not, no, and that is on the bucket list to do that before it's Bramley Moore, just so I can say that I went to the old lady and not to the new place. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the hope is we get to a point where we're all going over there fairly regular. You know, that'd be cool. You'd be able to go to Goodison, and then you go to Bramley Moore, and then you experience it all, and everything's okay. That's what
Exactly.
That's the goal, anyway.
Yeah.
So really quick, before we finish up talking about Gateway Toffees, do you want to tell anybody in the St. Louis area where they can meet up with you and for watch parties and all that hotness?
Yeah, so we've got a Facebook page that's pretty active, which is under Gateway Toffees, or they can look it up under St. Louis Evertonians, which is what it used to be. And then obviously our Twitter handle is gateway_Toffees. And we've been meeting up. The people that live here will know the Amsterdam. That's really the only soccer-specific bar in St. Louis now. Some of the ones that used to be around closed. So we go down and share it with the other Premier League clubs, but it's a nice place. And we're going to try to go anytime there's a Saturday or Sunday match. We're going to try to make an effort to be down there for that. So I've been announcing the watch parties and then doing it that way. But really the default is if they're playing on a Saturday and Sunday, the hope is that we're going to at least somewhat fill that place with blue, because a lot of weekends it's filled with red, which is just absolutely awful. So.
Got to somehow perform some kind of exorcism or something there. That's, jeez. So Chris, just a few questions about you and your Everton ties and whatnot. So who's your favorite current Everton player? Because I have these stock questions that I ask everybody. I want to make sure I get them in.
So it's a funny, well, I don't know. Some people might find it a funny story. So I'm a big Seamus Coleman fan, but I'm now a Ben Godfrey fan. And the reason I'm a Ben Godfrey fan is very simple. My mother, who thought she was doing a nice thing and buying me a birthday present, she was supposed to get me a Seamus Coleman jersey and well, I won't say the size, but it obviously bigger than what she probably would have thought because of the weird European sizing. Right. So when I got this present in the mail, it was a Ben Godfrey jersey, and it was smaller than the size I was supposed to wear. So I decided, you know what, Mom, instead of complaining, I'm just going to adopt Ben as my favorite player now, and we'll go from there. So that's currently I'm a Godfrey or a Coleman fan, depending on the day. So
did you try to squeeze into the
big man shirt? Yeah, big man in a little shirt. Barlow moment.
Gotta do it. I've had that accident happen where, with my kids, we'll run a 5K, and they'll give us all the same shirt, different sizes, and I've accidentally put theirs on. It's just and my wife's going, I don't think it's yours, honey. I have no idea how you got into that.
And we don't know how you're going to get out of it.
Need a team of reindeer and a sleigh drag me out of that thing. Oh my gosh. So Godfrey, good story, very cool. What's your favorite Everton goal?
Ooh, that goal this year by Townsend was just so sweet. It's really hard to go back in time and say anything but that. There was a Gylfi goal. I don't know whether we're allowed to say his name now anymore, but
it's a good question.
Lester.
It was back when I think goal. It was.
Yeah, he actually hit it on a set piece, which was amazing because I don't think he's done that ever since he's been with the club. So, but yeah, I think that Townsend goal this year was it was amazing. So
it was very nice. Yeah, it is a good one. What's your favorite, since you've been a supporter, since you've been an Everton guy, what's been your favorite Everton moment? Doesn't just have to be a goal. Could be something that happened after a win, maybe a big save, just a favorite Everton moment.
Duncan for hugging every ball boy that he could hug during the Chelsea match when everybody was just absolutely down and depressed because we were afraid that, we were going to go down, and Silva had been not what we thought he was going to be. So just that match of like the elation of, oh, wow, we can score goals. And Duncan Ferguson is now throwing ball up in the air and having fun. That I think that was just kind of a neat, like, you have those moments you get way too into this and you realize, oh, wait a second, this can be fun again. So
Yeah.
that was that moment for me.
Duncan Ferguson wearing that wristband with the suit. It's just what a fun moment. That was such a strange little stretch, and it was exciting with him on the touchline. It really was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. And lastly, I always ask people this. Do you have a player, it could be current or it could be in the past, where you're kind of like, that is my personality. Like that player right there, that's Chris Daughtry. If you're trying to explain people, yeah, I'm like this player. Who would you say?
Yeah, I think if I'm probably a Leighton Baines kind of person because I have a veneer of what people think I am on the outside, which is assistant superintendent and all this stuff. But then in the background, I like to play, like fiddle around on my banjo and my tenor guitar. And then I do this crazy club stuff that I'm doing and stuff like that. So at work, I'm a very serious at it kind of person. And most people would probably tell you I have to be flat. I'm the guy that does all like the discipline hearings, the very unfun stuff that comes along with it. But then on the side, I'm more of the, I don't know, just different personality who enjoys the quirkiness in life. So yeah, I'm a Leighton Baines kind of person.
It's almost like people are complex and layered. It's weird. That's so. That's awesome.
The old Shrek line: "We're onions. We're onions. So peel back the layers."
Oh yeah, very nice. Okay, very cool. So before we move on to West Ham, I have obligatory October question.
Oof.
Chris, what is your favorite scary movie? And you don't have, try not to say something like Geely, which is just scary in a really weird way. Let's actual horror or thriller, whatever, something like that. What do you got?
The movie that made me stay up at night was The Shining. And the reason The Shining, my dad was a great guy, but like I could always see he could have that edge. Like if we got stuck in a hotel in Colorado way up in the mountains, my dad could have that edge. So that movie scared the Jesus out of me. And I had some sleepless nights over that. I've since shown that movie to my kids and they're like, Dad, this isn't scary. They're like, this isn't scary at all. I'm like, well, I haven't done my job as a father then, because if you're not scared of that, then clearly you don't think I have that crazy side to me.
It's really interesting. Like a lot of the movies that I grew up with as being scary, even into my like late teens and early 20s, I don't feel like a lot of the young folk find them scary at all.
No.
And they're interesting. They're usually a good blend of drama and horror and and thriller. And I like them because a lot of them times they're character driven. I'm a big fan of those. So I like The Shining a lot. I think it's awesome. I think it's really wonderfully done. But I think a lot of young folk would not find that scary.
Yeah. So what's your default?
So if I'm going like personal, I just really like The Exorcist, man.
Yeah.
I think The Exorcist.
You can't go wrong with it.
It's just a really good drama. The scenes between Reagan and her mom are just, it's just really, and I like the book too. It's a really well written book. A buddy of mine recommended it, and I finished it like that. It's just good stuff. Plus, that's my kind of, I like character. I'm a big fan of character.
Yep.
So, last question before we go. I have to ask this, Chris, and I feel like I'm going to get the answer I'm looking for here. Chris, have you seen Seven?
Yes, I have seen Seven.
Boom. Just for clarification, Chris, how old are you?
I am 48 years young.
Very close to my age. That makes sense that you would see Seven. a lot of these young folk are bringing on here. They've never even heard of it. It's killing me, man.
It's a sad thing too, isn't it?
Because it's I'm not gonna say it's my favorite movie ever, but it's one of those where I'm like, yeah, it's really good. Really good movie. Very cool. So Chris has seen 7. So Jacob, just saying, the older folk, throwing it out there. All right, so let's move on. Let me take this note card in. All right, so West Ham match.
Oof.
I'm gonna say spoiler alert for anybody who recorded it, but yeah, it was not the best result. 1-0 loss to the Irons, to the Hammers. So Chris, give us some opening thoughts. I don't want to taint your thoughts, and then I'll start muddying the waters by bringing up conversation topics and whatnot.
Yeah. Don't we miss DCL and Richarlison? That's just what I kept thinking in that match. I mean, we got off to like a really super slow start, and I felt like we were kind of in that. But even with that, some crosses that came into the box, I'm just like, if DCL is in this match, I feel like we're 1-0 at some point in that match. So, I think sometimes you kind of play with fool's gold with the fact that you've got some of these guys that step up, but against a good West Ham team, and I think they are a good team. I don't think we had the personnel to be able to really be effective and score, and we played that way the whole game. And credit to West Ham, their midfield was great during the match. I felt like Decore and Alan had played so well and I never quite felt like they were engaged, especially in the first half. Second half, I felt like we started getting a little engaged, but it's a tough match to watch because you just look and you think, what if? And I really do think there was a ball. I don't remember if I think it was Gray that crossed it into the box. And I'm like, if DCL is there, that's in the back of the net. So
I think if Richarlison, honestly, if what's funny is like, because that's the one Iwobi just totally whiffed.
Yeah.
I mean, Iwobi in the first half, that was rough. It was
brutal.
It was not I don't think Rondon had that great of a first half either. Just not an overall great game for either one of those fellas. I do think they got more involved in the second half. I mean, I'm just gonna. I can't sit there and ignore the fact that Iwobi had a legit chance or two in the second half. Rondon had a couple of flicked headers. He gets a little bit more on him. That's a serious chance at goal. But yeah, the first half was rough, man. It was at least the beginning. Beginning of the first half was rough. It just felt very flat. It felt like we were trying to just absorb pressure, and just kind of sit back and try to not do anything wrong. It felt like.
Yeah. I felt like when he switched at halftime, when he moved Gray out wide and brought Iwobi in, I kind of felt like it changed the tenor and complexion of the game. And I'll be honest and saying with Benitez, I've liked Gray playing on the inside, but I kind of felt like with their midfield, we needed Gray on the outside and we were going to have to attack down the wings. I just didn't feel like we could attack through the middle. And once he moved out wide and Iwobi with that kind of bigger body, able to do some things, move the ball, I felt like we started to really get in the match. And I'll be honest in saying, 1-0, it's probably deserved on their part, but in some ways it's a little harsh too, because I felt like we probably had the better chances in the second half really than they did, except for on those stupid set pieces, which I just kept saying. We were all sitting there. We're like, they're going to score off a set piece at some point in this match. It just felt like it. And maybe that's too much Everton in me to say that, but it just felt like they were going to score on a set piece. So,
I mean, it's experience, I didn't think our overall performance was too bad. I didn't think I thought it was a pretty even game. I didn't think I thought we had stretches where we didn't look great. I thought we had individual players who weren't engaged all the time, were giving the ball away really cheaply. But I didn't think it was the poorest of matches. I didn't watch it live. I watched it a couple times afterward, and I saw a lot of comments talking about how abysmal the game was. I didn't think it was that bad.
No.
We had opportunities. And to be honest, it was great to see Coleman back because I thought, especially second half, he was dangerous going forward.
Yeah, he really was. I felt like both, Digne's not really gotten a lot of credit this year because he hasn't been as much as on the offensive end, but still, like if you take a look at his stats after matches, he's still he creates, at least he's that threat on that side. And then when you pair him up with speed, which I felt like that was the missing link that we had the last couple of years, we just had no speed. And putting Gray on the outside makes a huge difference. And then Townsend as well, linking up with Coleman, I think is just a really nice. But again, it's that end product of who are you crossing it to? And I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to go back and look at Rondon when he played at Newcastle, but I don't remember him being that guy that got on the end of crosses. I kind of more remember him for being like hold-up play and getting other people involved in the offense. And I may be completely off base on that, but it just, if I remember more, and that's kind of what he settled into with us as well. He does a nice job holding up, but then that really makes it tough to make that run into the box and be able to finish something. So, especially at his age.
So I'd say you're with him. I remember him getting on the end of stuff with his noggin, sitting there winning crosses in the air. He's not the kind of player that you're going to be able to feed a lot of through balls to, and he's going to outrun anybody. He just not. I don't know that he's ever been that guy. I thought his hold up play was better back in the day than it has been. Like especially this game, I didn't think it was that great. I thought he was, he allowed people to kind of come through him and win the ball. He wasn't holding people off, which for the longest time watching Premier League, I thought it was just a straight up foul. And nowadays it's like I'm confused when they call the foul because they usually don't call it. People coming through like that. It's almost like you have to do something with if you're coming through up high, they're fine with it. But if you come through with the legs, that's when they'll usually call it.
Yep.
But he wasn't holding off people well at all this past weekend. I feel like he's decent in the air. But that's you just described like his two very strong characteristics for him normally. I think those were two reasons why I think we wanted him. Yeah. But I didn't see him win a lot of 50-50 balls, man.
No, he really didn't. He's looked slow ever since he came back to us. And maybe that's just game shape. I don't know.
You like to hope that and try to be kind, but I don't know. He's just not a blazing speed guy. Short bursts maybe, but he goes off on a 20-yard run. He ain't beating anybody.
No, probably not even me, and that's sad. So
I don't want to assume that you can't outrun Rondon, man. Come on.
It'd be a good race. It'd be a good race.
You hear that? You hear that, Solomon? Chris has laid down the gauntlet. He wants you. All right, let's do it. So first half, fairly even, despite that really dry stretch at the beginning. Second half, we started off a little more lively, looking a little bit more into it. You mentioned the change, and I'm with you on that. And our fullbacks, our outside backs, started getting forward a lot more. We were just more dangerous. And then you have that ball that just launches into the air, and Pickford times it oddly, and somehow Antonio out jumps him without using his hands up high. With Pickford, even with short arms, the guy should be able to reach higher, right? Don't get that. And it ends up as a corner. A lot of people call it a foul. In some games, I have seen it called a foul, but I watched the replay. I don't think it was a really strong foul. I didn't think it was that bad.
I honestly think it was one of those where Jordan almost anticipated the contact. You kind of do that in basketball. You go up for that and you anticipate the contact and you don't actually just go hard at something. And I kind of felt like that was the same thing with him. It's like he was anticipating the contact, never reached all the way up. So, and let's be honest, how many fouls have even been called in that match? I mean, he was letting them play. So yeah, probably a lot of people blame it on Jordan's short arms. I just don't think he had a real good jump at it. So
the timing was really, really wrong.
It was odd.
You know, it was a weird thing, but one would think a keeper in the Premier League goes up with confidence there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what threw him off.
But isn't that so Pickford? I mean, like
really
when he makes a
man.
mistake, it's always like these really weird, odd. You're just sitting there going, I don't get it, because he's so good. I mean, he really is so good. There were times in that match, like he sent, I don't remember who he sent a long ball to down the field, but I'm like, there are not many goalkeepers that make that play in a match. But then there's those odd times that he just, I don't know if it's a lapse of concentration or if it's just not, he doesn't go hard there. Or he was expecting somebody. I will say this, if Gerry's in the game, does that even happen? I don't know. Gerry seems to put his head on anything that comes into the box. And he loves getting into whoever's number 9's head is for the match. So, again, maybe that's another loss that we had that you can't make up for.
I like to think that nothing bad ever happens if Gerry Mina's in the game.
Well, you do get entertained.
Yes, at the very least. Yeah, so it's a questionable play. The people who are calling it a foul, I mean, there was contact. There was. Contact happened. Have I seen that kind of thing called? Yes, I absolutely have. But is it consistent with the fact that not a lot was called in that game? Yeah. If the ref's trying to let them bump, let them hit each other, and that's the case. I get that. I've always gotten the impression that players and managers and fans appreciate consistency in the referee. Yep. Call it tight or call it loose, but do it the whole game.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So then they get a corner out of that, and the guy we almost signed, which I feel like just happens to us every time,
doesn't it?
gets a goal, header off the corner, just a little flick, puts it in. He runs near post and just flicks it far. Should we have done better there?
I don't know how you felt, but I really kind of felt like those in-swingers they were putting in from that side were good. And I just kind of felt like that's a really tough ball to get across, especially when you're doing the zonal marking. I thought Godfrey made a good attempt at it. I just think it's just one of those, their guy was in the right place, right time. He got the contact he needed, goal. And sometimes you have those happen in the Premier League. That's why those guys are so good. So, and I'm like you, it's like Premier script writers. It was the same thing when Bailey came on the field for Aston Villa. You're like, he's going to score goals. That's just the way it is. This is Everton. So that's what we do.
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh. But yeah, I had more regret about the play before rather than the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then shortly after that, you got the Souček Rondon thing that happened, which there are fans online saying Rondon, by the way, who apparently has eyes running up and down the back of his body, meant to step on Souček's face.
Yeah.
Totally intentional, and that he should be banned.
Well, he'd seen the movie Seven, so he was literally trying to sever his head, put it in a box in the game. So spikes just weren't big enough. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's aw. So Souček, he did get stepped on the face. Not a little, yeah. But I can't see how anyone could. I think the confusing thing there is he does a movement backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. It is an odd movement.
Yep.
And I will say that. I wasn't sure if that's a get your balance type movement and then more, but the fact that he found very little purchase at all to push off of, and he kind of pulled back. It was just a weird movement. But I got to say, talking about Rondon, that's one of the things I didn't doubt him coming in was his character.
Yep.
I know he badly injured one of our players. I think it was what was it? James McCarthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He badly injured James McCarthy, and it tore him up, and it was not intentional. And it was, so we're talking about, that's the one thing I would have said about him, regardless of where he plays, is a good guy character wise.
Yeah, I agree.
So say what you want to about the guy's play, whatever, that's debatable, but the character seems like it's intact with him. So that's why but some of these folks, maybe they understand his intentions better than anybody else.
Well, clearly we all live life in slow motion. So shouldn't it be easy just to not do that's what's great. These guys are world-class athletes, but they're still people. I mean, you still have to gather yourself when you go to run. You can't just automatically hit the ground and be like the road runner where you just take off. You have to actually gather. You have to move. And if you look, it's just a guy that's gathering and getting his hips set so that he's ready to run. We do that all the time in every other sport. I mean, you get your hips set, you plant your foot, and you go. It's just sad that Souček's face was on the bottom of that foot plant, and he did there was some nice facial surgery. So, hopefully, hope for a quick recovery from him. But I didn't get to see whether he had any stitches, but I can't imagine how he didn't have any stitches with what I saw his face look like after it was all said and done. But I'm like you, I didn't see any malice. I mean, Rondon's not had that history. Yeah.
I mean, there was a little physical tangle where they were like exchanging body like bumps.
Yeah.
And that would, to me, be the only thing that would be in it, is if he was trying to hold the guy off by doing that. But anyway, so match ends. We didn't make a whole lot of changes. We brought in Anthony Gordon at one point, who, he was there. He was there. Didn't really light everything afire or anything. No. But I mean, I didn't really see a whole. I didn't feel like complaining afterward.
Yeah.
And I know that people did. So I just didn't feel like we were that terrible, considering the fact that we're so thin.
Yeah, I thought you're playing against a good Moyes team who how he's going to set up, how he's going to play, that they're going to nick a goal at some point, and then he's going to hold on for dear life and probably get the win. And by the way, that's the formula that Everton fans loved years back. I mean, the guy hasn't changed that much. But I got to be honest in saying, with Benitez's teams, I felt like we fought up until the end, and it just didn't go our way. And that happens sometimes. We'll get that same break later on down the road, probably someplace. Things tend to even out. So I went into this match thinking it was a flip of the coin, to be honest, because of our injuries. I think if we're healthy, I think we win that match. And I still, at the end of the day, I feel like you could play that match 10 times and probably we win 5, they win 5 with the right. And it is what it is. So,
I mean, we had opportunities. Opportunities were there. Okay. Yep. This was not one of those games. We had some last year and we've had some in the past where we just didn't look like had no threatening movements whatsoever. We had opportunities. They were there. So
it's just sad that the one time we had a great opportunity, it came to Iwobi's feet and it looked like he had never played the game of soccer before. But it happens.
Yeah.
Wrong guy, wrong place.
I mean, when somebody in a Premier League game has the same kind of result that I would in front of goal, I just feel like they need a hug so bad.
I think that's a good way to say it. I think Iwobi needs a hug. He's probably needed one since he came to play for us. So
wrap him up in eggs and pour some beans on it. Give him a nice breakfast hug. That's what the guy needs. Jeez, poor Iwobi. He's just going to catch so much until he has a good game. All right. Any other thoughts on the West Ham match, man?
No, put it in past, move on.
We're out of it. We're done. Really quick before I move on to the mailbag. No. There's questions about this, so I'm not going to mention it. Mention it in the question. All right. So, mailbag. We are starting with a question from I'm not pronouncing this correctly, Aaron. I don't care what you say. You told me it's Bowsy. I'm gonna say Bowsy because that's what's gonna happen. All right. So now a moment with Bowsy Toffee Ted. He asks his first question: is there a horror movie scene that made you properly cack in your pantaloons? One scene where you were like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So I'm just going to say really quick, there's a couple of ways to take this. All right. I've seen some movies where there's some really just straight up disturbing stuff happening and it frightened me. So, and there's also jump scare stuff where I was just like, bah! And that caught me and I needed to push pause because my heart, So there's a couple ways to go. I don't know how you wanted us to do this, Aaron. So yeah. Anyway, Chris, what do you got?
Oh my Lord. I don't get freaked out by the blood and guts and all that kind of stuff. So I can't go there. I was a medic in the Air Force way back when. So like blood and guts, that doesn't bother me at all. And I tend to be like cynical when it comes to just the average chop them up, that kind of stuff. So I got to say it's more like the psychological stuff. Like when I see those twins in the hallway in The Shining, I'm like, ooh, that's creepy. Yeah. So that's where I got to go. It's the psychological stuff for me.
Gotcha. If I go jump scary, I immediately think the first time I watched The Exorcist, I was like 18, and this is before they remastered it and brought in like the deleted scenes from before, and before they started adding all these like digital projections and like certain moments of the movie. So there's a dream sequence where someone is getting onto the subway, and out of nowhere, and this doesn't happen much in the old version of the movie, this like demon face is on screen for like a split second. It's like, rah! Right? It's just that. It's like a frame. It's like so fast. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa, what? Late at night, 2 a.m., sitting there watching and I had to rewind it and pause it. And I was like, that's terrifying. Like I couldn't even really see it the first time. I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to just stop everything. It was crazy. So yeah, there was that one that got to me. And I will say, okay, and I'm just going to say this. No one needs to see this movie. No one. But it's a movie. It's a Turkish horror movie called Baskin. Don't watch it. I watched it by myself one night. I was the only one in my house. And there's a really awful scene of a black mass at the end. And you should never watch it. And I had to watch a few comedy shows after I finished that movie to like laugh it off and not be frightened of, yes, it was terrible. Don't ever watch Baskin, everyone. Yes. So there you go. Because yeah, that was a terrible, terrible thing. So now Aaron asks an actual soccer question. What's your honest assessment of Rondon's first 1.5 months?
Oh, I think we hit it. So
brief summary.
I think a lot of lightning speed runs into the bot. Wait, no. He's occasionally I think he's had some moments where hold up play has been okay. And I think distribution, I think you see his ideas, but sometimes we expect these guys just to hit the ground running and then forget this is still like a collection of new players together. So not really knowing where that guy's going to be when you do go to distribute, I think has held him back as well. But, I still like him. I think if we get Richarlison back to lead the line and you've got a guy you can bring off the bench like Rondon, I think that's a real plus for us to have that guy that comes and gives you something different. So I like him. I would just say I think we got probably what we expected at the beginning. Yeah. He's out of shape, and he's not played with these guys before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I think he's good energy. I think he's not. He doesn't seem like an unhappy guy. He seems happy to be here and play a role. I feel like he's been thrust into that role early.
Yep.
Earlier than I think I would have wanted him to be. But I agree everything you said. I hope he ends up making a go of it, getting himself in shape and feeling like a good plug in every once in a while, which is I think we were hoping is he would just be plugged in every once in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot to ask for somebody who hasn't had a lot of play to come in pretty quick and be the starter.
Yeah.
So, especially at a time when one of our other main attacking threats is out.
Yeah, I agree. It's just hard.
All right, so Jake Holton and Jacob Ritchie both had very similar questions. Jake Holton asks, the loss of Decore is obviously going to be nearly impossible to overcome. However, you have to slot someone in. Who's your ideal replacement for him and why? So that's Jake's question. Jacob Ritchie, with news of Decore's injury, how do you expect Everton to respond tactically? He's such a big part of our press and counter. Do we switch systems or try to get Tom, Andre, or Gabami to fill that role? So if you've been living under a rock, first of all, stop that. Okay. No one. I mean, I realize the real estate market is crazy right now.
I was going to say, you can't even afford a rock at this point.
It's I wish I had a rock.
It's 3.2 million, especially if it comes on some land. So what are you going to
do? Okay. So basically, Decore stress fracture, probably out, I think around 6 weeks. I believe that's what Fabrizio said earlier. And got to trust that guy over some of the other folks. It's going to be tough. So is this a plug and play situation for one of the players that Jacob mentioned? Tom Davies, Andre Gomes, or Gabamin? Or is this hey, let's do something completely different formation-wise and tactically?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm like one of the few Everton fans that has actually seen Gabamin play in person because, he's only been with us for 2 years and not played. And I will say that guy has a skill set that could not replace Decore. He doesn't have, I don't think, that speed that Decore has once he gets on the ball. But I saw him make a pass in Florida, and I think it was to Amari Gray, where he just saw it, and it was so Benitez style. It was, I'm going to see you streaking down the field. I'm going to lace it. And that pass was just picture perfect that he made. And I'm like, that's what I'm sure Marcel Brand saw when he brought him in. And he has a physical presence that the other two guys don't have, just his athleticism. In saying that, do we really believe he's healthy? I don't know. I get a feeling Benitez isn't going to mess with the system a lot. I do wonder, is Iwobi now going to slot in at the 10? As a default, and we're going to see Gray out wide more, or is he doing that to save Gray's legs a little bit during matches too, so you don't have him just running out of gas? So I think it's a great question. My gut feeling is he's going to try to plug and play at first and see what happens. And I hate to say this, some Everton fans will be disappointed by me saying it. I feel like it's going to be Tom more than it's going to be the other guys. I would say I want to see Gabamin, but I feel like it's and I may be completely wrong. I hope I am.
Yeah. Ideally, you want to think, oh, well, we've been doing some things right. So we're not, even if we lost a match, we didn't get blown out. We didn't get, completely just embarrassed. It'd be nice to be able to have one player just move over.
What are you thinking? I mean, do you think I mean, we've seen 5 at the back that he messed with. I didn't like that. I didn't think we played really well with
I don't think anybody
that
liked
setup.
Yeah.
So you still feel like we're going to keep that solid 4 in the back, especially now that Digne and Coleman is here. But then what are you putting in front? You know, Alon's going to slot in, but does he play more of a traditional 6 now, or is he your box to box guy and you put somebody in there to kind of be the 6? I think those are the questions.
I have an instinct that he'll switch systems. I don't know why. I don't really know what to back that up. The only thing I would say about all that is the fact that I feel like when we've seen Benitez be in these situations where he has to switch some things up, he does.
Yeah.
He is not afraid. I mean, he's tactically flexible. So I feel like if he's looking at it and he doesn't think it's going to work, I feel like he'll change.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta agree with you though. I don't really like the 5 at the back, man. I mean, and how does that change things? What does that mean for the rest of for the attack? You know, you run 5 at the back, we usually look pretty anemic.
Yeah.
Going forward when we do that. It's almost like what we do is we do that in order to be able to switch tactics a little while later when we've lured them into some, to be able to be thinking going forward, and then we switch systems and then we press and we catch them by surprise. So I feel like we're going to change systems, but I don't know. I mean, gosh, man, 5 with, I mean, you know who the 5 are. We know who they are.
Yep.
Right. It's just the other 6 players. Who are those going to be? How are we going to roll that out? Because we don't have DCL. So Richarlison, I don't think is quite ready. He's close. Right.
I wish he was, because I think this would be a perfect time to reintroduce him with Watford coming in. But yeah, I don't know that he is ready. So
yeah. So then you look at, I mean, are you just looking at quality players to figure out how you do your formation? You say Damari Gray, Townsend, and we need a striker, so Rondon. So then you have those 3. So then you need what? 3 more?
Yep.
Right? So then it's at that point, I feel like you don't have 2 center mids that are strong enough.
No.
You know what I mean? So I almost feel like you've got to roll with, I mean, man, I hate the idea of going with Alan, Tom Davies, and then either Andre Gomes or Gabami, but I almost feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it could be.
But we don't have a very quick 10 at that point. Then like Tom Davies is going to be your 10.
Yep.
That's weird.
Yep.
So I'm just telling you, man, I don't like what I'm saying.
You feel like when I saw that news, I'm like, that's the worst thing that can happen right now, because Decore has been that good. I mean, that's the other piece to it. The thing that we all know, Decore has been our linchpin so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy has moved the ball so much from back to front and truly been box to box, and it's just been fun to watch him get to play like I think he thought he was going to play when he came in under Carlo. It's a huge hole to replace. You look at our bench, and it's not like we have anybody over the age of 20 that can come in and play. It's a bunch of kids over there. So
yeah, that's the thing. I wish that Anyango had not been. I mean, he just came back. Like he had an injury for a while. He just came back, had a great game the other day, but
he's not ready
for first team. I can't imagine it, man. I wouldn't put a kid like that who just came off an injury.
No.
So yeah, it's almost like we should have considered buying a player, bringing a player on, bringing someone in. You know, that was always the concern. If Decore gets hurt, what do you do? What happens?
Yeah, his profile is just different than everybody else in that midfield. So
yeah,
he's the one guy we probably couldn't afford to lose.
Yeah, because he can play. I just the idea of him playing that kind of role, and he defends.
Yep.
You know, he is a huge part of our counter. Huge.
Yep.
You know, the three people that are almost always getting forward lately, him, Townsend, Gray.
Yeah,
Boom,
exactly. Exactly.
So Jake Holton, Jacob Ritchie. There's a reason why you guys come on our show a lot. It's because these are good questions. All right. Yeah. Next question. It's the final question from Twitter, and then we'll move on to Reddit. Connor Williams, who actually does some Toffee Blues work with us. He sent me a comment last week about my favorite Simpsons character being Hank Scorpio, who is and he was great because clearly Connor watches a lot of The Simpsons. So he has asked, in the same vein of thought, your favorite episodes of Simpsons. So Chris, I'm not sure if you watch Simpsons. I've watched a lot of it. I have some favorites, but I definitely did not go to my DVD shelf and remind myself. So I'm going straight from memory right now, and I haven't watched an episode in months. So I feel like I'm going to totally expose myself as being unworthy of Connor's question at this moment. But Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, so it's been some time since I've watched The Simpsons, but I'm going to go on the Wayback Machine here. So I don't know what his age is, but he may be like, I don't think that ever happened. There was an episode back in the early 90s, and I was a huge baseball fan growing up, and there was an episode where they play the town next door, and all these major leaguers come in, and Homer still ends up being the hero for the day. And I think I don't remember what sum of money that they had put. It was like $1 million had been put on the game or something, but Homer ended up having to come through for him. And I still remember that as being kind of my favorite Simpsons episode. And that had to have been like 91, 92, 93, somewhere like that. It's a couple of years ago.
Is that the one that had like Ken Griffey Jr. in it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, King Griffey. It had Ozzie Smith. It had like Darryl Strawberry, Mattingly. I mean, it's like all these guys that are like Wade Boggs. Those are my guys. And all the people that are under a certain age right now are like, what is he talking about?
No, man.
Who are these people?
That was a really good one. Is that the one where they had been injecting Ken Griffey Jr. with like some kind of drugs and like experience, and it like led to gigantism or something?
Yeah. Later did we find out that Barry Bonds actually would have the same issue.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember that one. It's been a while since I've seen it, but Burns ends up becoming like the manager of the team and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he put $1 million on it, if I remember correctly. He had put $1 million that they beat, and I don't remember what the town was, but that's been a couple years ago.
Okay. I have a few answers here. I'm trying to whittle it down. And I think I'm gonna go with there's an episode. See, I've been wanting to say the monorail episode so bad, because it's a really good one. All right. It's a very good one. But I want to go a little less stereotypical, because I feel like a lot of people would say monorail or like Mr. Plow. You know what I mean? I feel like those are the ones everybody's like, oh, I know that one. So I'm going to go. There's an episode starring John Waters. Okay. The film director. And it's all about, I think the episode may be called like Homer is Gay or something. And it is brilliantly funny. Oh my gosh. John Waters walks in their home and is just like charmed by Marge just because of the she's got corn on her curtains, and he thinks that's adorable. And it's just, the whole thing is just brilliant because they are so clueless about John Waters, and it's just flipping charming. It's just a really good episode. So yes, John Waters episode. That's the one. Yes. So Connor, you seem awesome. Your questions are awesome too. And it gets me psyched to have to think, because I was going to say monorail. And then I was like, no, the Itchy and Scratchy episode, or Itchy and Scratchy Land episode, where the robots end up going berserk. And because that's the one where they have the Bort keychains, and that kills me.
Yep. That's probably in my top 10, that episode. So
good one. Very good. So, all right. So, Connor, good stuff. Now let's move on to the Reddit episode, or not Reddit episodes, Reddit questions that are sitting, that were sent to me by Toffee Blues John. Every time I have to say these, some of these screen names and handles, I'm like, I don't know if I'm somebody that is like, cool enough to say this, but QT6 Kitten asks.
That's enough said right there.
Yes.
Do they even have to ask a question at this point?
The funny thing is, QT6 Kitten has asked questions before. There's some regulars in here. It's great. Who started the curse and how do we break it? Has God abandoned us? Does Rondon offer anything to the team? And if so, well, we've sort of answered that before, so that's okay. Oh, sorry. I should have read the rest of this because it's hilarious. Does Rondon offer anything to the team? And if so, does he know that he can start offering it now? That's just so good. I hate I messed that up. And lastly, do horses wear socks?
Ooh.
I feel like I've seen movies and like horse racing things where they wear leg warmers.
Yeah, it's leg warmers.
But do they cover the hoof?
No, it's not toes. They don't have toes, so they don't need those little five. They don't have those 5 appendages, so they go barefoot.
Yeah. So technically, that's a no, QT6 Kitten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leg
Good
warmers.
question,
the 80s. That's where they got the idea.
Madonna.
So who started the curse and how do we break it? Has God abandoned us? How are you feel? Do you ever feel cursed? I think that's the real question here. You feel cursed as an Everton fan sometimes?
So I was a Cubs fan for years.
So you feel great.
Cursed. That was cursed. So
legit.
Nah, I don't know. Don't you feel like sometimes you need that thing in life though that you get really excited about, and then there's some angst, and you go through every human emotion, and maybe that's what draws us to Everton in the first place? Because how boring would it be to be great all the time? Then there's never that up when you've had the downs and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be good one of these days. It's going to happen. Maybe in my lifetime. I don't know. But it's not. I don't think it's a curse. Yeah. Is it? Is it a curse?
I think curses are only as effective if you believe in them. You give them power,
Yeah.
Same way, to be honest with you, I don't even know if that's even, what I just said may be nonsensical, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm a big believer in, kind of a group mentality shaping a group, an entire group mentality. So if the Everton fan base is sitting there collectively thinking, oh my gosh, we are going to cack our pantaloons right now and give up a goal, then I sort of feel like that general vibe, like the team actually thinks, hey, they think we're going to do this. Hey, we better not do this. We better not cack our pantaloons. And then what happens? The inevitable cacking of pantaloons. Yeah. Every time,
It's the universe.
So yeah, man. And so these teams that are the ones who are the ones causing the cacking of pantaloons, those teams, they've been there before. They have a confidence in being in front of the goal and finishing and not making silly mistakes and being present and not obsessing with failure and silliness in their prefrontal cortex. You know what I mean? They're there. Yeah. They've been there before. Right. So yeah, man. Do I feel like we're cursed? Nah, man. I just think we're negative. I think we're negative. Let's get over that. But I got to be honest. I as an Everton fan, I felt super daggone negative. As negative as you can feel.
Yeah.
So
it is part of the emotion. I mean, it's every season you start with this high, and then you get up there someplace where you're like, hey, we really do have a chance to make Europe, and then you settle back into 9th, 10th, and then you go back through the whole cycle again. It's the life cycle. It's what you do. It's what you do. Yeah. So
rinse and repeat. It's yeah. Like I mean, you said it best though. I did not feel drawn to Everton because they were the top team in the table.
Yeah.
That's not my psychology. It's
Yep.
not. I like to earn it with a team. I like
Yep.
to be a part of the journey. I like to be a part of the climb. It's not why if I'm going to do that, then I mean, I wouldn't be a Wake Forest fan. Okay?
Yeah, that tells you right there that you are definitely used to the climb.
That's my local. Okay. I grew up Wake Forest basketball and Wake Forest football. And let me tell you something, folks. This is how many national championships we have. We're psyched.
You've had a couple really good players though.
Yes.
A couple.
Those are like little
one in Rodney Rogers, Tim Duncan. I mean, look, you've had those guys. So they're all there.
Chris Paul, Josh Howard.
Yeah, see?
But
how haven't you won a national title? That's the question. Oh, wait, I know. It's my Kentucky Wildcats that I grew up cheering for that always knocked you guys out.
They did knock us out one time. You made me cry one time, man. It's Jamal Mashburn, man. That was the worst. Oh,
Jamal versus Rodney. So
I think it's I will say it's amazing you're a UK fan and you're also talking about the climb and two things that are difficult. That's like the most successful. Like they're winning so many games every year. So
you got to have something that you go to that makes you feel good all the time.
Yes, you're like gotta have the fallback, man. You're like every time I'm worried about Everton, I'm like, oh, Calipari. Oh.
Yeah, that's my drug. It makes me feel good. So.
Gosh, that may be why I feel so awful. I don't know that. So going to the Reddit questions, continuing. Victor Boskovich asks, how many points are we likely to get before Christmas with our upcoming fixtures being Watford home, Wolves away, Spurs home, City away, Brentford away, Liverpool home, Arsenal home, Palace away, Chelsea away, and Leicester home. Taking into account our injuries, Rondon, and our manager. So all of those things. I've done some brief calculations. It's not great. It's not a great. I thought I was being optimistic. Maybe it's not. So out of those, after Wolves, Watford, Spurs, how many points you got us getting there?
Oh, I like us at least 5 points or with those. So
for those three,
I don't know what that combination is, but I don't think Spurs are as good as everybody is latching on to now after their Leicester, or not Leicester, but their match this last weekend. Yeah. Who was it? Manchester United.
Yeah.
I just don't. That wasn't even who.
What about City, Brentford, Liverpool, Arsenal?
Ooh.
Those 4 games. That's not an easy stretch, especially the way
Brentford's been playing really well. I mean, to be conservative, I think you're happy if you get 6 points out of that. I think you're ecstatic. I don't know that that's the case with that though. So
okay, and
I could easily see 4.
So the last 3. So you want to say 4?
I'll say 4.
Okay, and then the last 3: Palace, Chelsea, Leicester. How many points you think we're taking there?
Let's finish strong. I think we get 6 somehow because we get some people back.
Okay, so Chris is more optimistic than I am. Chris thinks we're getting 15 from that stretch. Okay, I have said 11. Honestly, I like Chris's plan. Let's do that one. Okay.
Live in foolish bliss. That's the key.
It's not foolish if it ends up happening. It's okay.
There you go.
Portland Eric asks, and I'm just going to throw this up to you. Why? Just why? Chris, I'll let you go hog wild on that one.
It's easy because you can't have every team be great. There's got to be somebody in the middle. We are the middle. We're the middle child. It's okay to be the middle child. It didn't work out real well. Which Brady was it that always complained she was in the middle? But she was on a TV show.
Jan.
So, Jan. I mean, Jan was on TV. So is it all that bad to be in the middle? It can't be. No. It's because the Premier League is dominated by teams that, wait for it, they spend a lot of money. What did we not get to do this year? We didn't get to spend a lot of money. And if anybody can reasonably explain financial fair play to me, good luck, because I haven't figured it out yet. And I don't know who has figured it out yet, because it seems like teams with lots of money just get to spend more money is what it boils down to. And now Newcastle gets to be one of those teams. So why not?
They're the ones who have figured it out. They figured it out somehow.
That's the key. Just have more money.
Yes.
When I was a kid, I'm like, why don't they just print more money? Why can't we just print more money? That's what they do at the big clubs. So that's what it is.
You got a money printing machine, like in the movie Goonies.
Yeah.
All right. The bad guys in Goonies had a counterfeiting machine.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's essentially who Man City and these clubs are. The Fratellis from Goonies.
Exactly.
You heard it here
They're
first.
just
You're welcome.
printing money. They're just printing money.
So 9 Yoshi 5, who actually asks other questions in a minute, said, heard Dan Mice is coming back. Can he play right back?
We don't bring on right backs. So Seamus Coleman, he's going to be playing for the next 30, 40 years at least. That'll be Townsend's job at one point, is to wheel him down the field just so that he can kick the ball and then wheel him back to play defense.
Yeah, we don't believe in depth for our outside backs. We just, why? They're gonna live forever. They're gonna be.
What I want to know, over under on how many right backs we go in for that don't end up playing at Everton. That's what I want to know, because it seems like this past year there were like 75,000 right backs that we scouted, looked at, and almost brought in.
Yep, almost.
Couldn't work it out.
That was tough. That was the one thing I was dead set that was going to happen. I was so certain. Ugh. All right. White Dove Books asks, will Andros Townsend win goal of the season? Are we talking about for Premier League or just for Everton? For Everton, absolutely yes.
Yes. Goal of the season, I feel like that's going to go to somebody from one of the big six, just because they default. And this one happened so early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it was miraculous. And that's a big goalkeeper. That's not kicking it over Jordan Pickford's tiny little arms. That was a large man that he kicked it over.
Oh, don't remind me about Pickford. Oh no. All right. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. Yes for Premier League, or yes for Everton, no for Premier League. So yeah. Yeah. All right. So Evertonian. Nice. Yeah, it's like a interesting spelling of their first name after Everton. Very cool. I guess it's their first name. Would you like to see the youngsters, Lewis Dobbin or Ellis Sims, be given a chance over Rondon?
Oh, no. I just don't think they're ready. I don't see it. So is Sims even healthy?
So that's the thing. I feel like Sims has not been healthy, and I believe what we're hoping to do is when he gets healthy, have him get some U23 games under his belt, and then in January send him out on loan to a championship club, see if he can, build on his work with Blackpool last season.
Yeah, and Dobbins, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I feel like he's going to get slotted out wide at some point. He just does not look like your typical number 9 that we would have. Now, maybe somebody else, but not us. So I just feel like eventually he's going to get slotted out wide. And I think he can be an effective player. He looks like he's got a lot. Maybe not ready yet for that.
I like him for change of pace. I like him to, like if we were doing a 2-striker setup, I'd love that. That would be interesting to have him playing off a larger striker. It could be interesting.
Yep. Do you feel like he'd be more like for like with Gray, for example, or maybe Townsend, than maybe necessarily.
One would think in terms of, I'm just curious if he understands those positions. If he hasn't been getting a lot of run at those positions, it takes a little while to kind of understand the movement.
Yeah.
And responsibilities, especially like defensively, all different responsibilities defensively. So I'd love to. The idea of there being kids coming through though, getting some time is very appealing to me.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. I think he's there more for emergencies right now.
Yeah, I agree.
9 Yoshi 5 asks 2 questions, and this is a frequent poster. So thank you, 9 Yoshi 5. Good to hear from you. Again, always some really insightful questions. Iwobi was signed by Marco Silva. Since then, all managers have failed to get the best out of him, yet they persist with him. Is it best to just let others get a chance? How long do you persist with a player before you actually resign to giving them a longer period on the bench?
Didn't you say earlier that Iwobi needs a hug? I feel like he needs one now.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely, I don't think he's high on confidence. And I feel like he got a little last season. And I feel like he had a little this season at times. But he just didn't strike me as a player who was confident on the ball, playing on the wing. First half. Second half, I didn't think he was that bad.
No, I didn't either. I honestly think, too, if you look at Iwobi's stats, he's better than people think he is. Like, if you just look at pure numbers. And he does some things. He is strong. So there are times he gets a ball that you don't think he's going to have any chance of getting and retaining, and then play happens after that. So I do think he has qualities. I'm like you. I think his confidence is low. And honestly, I'm giving him a hard time about missing something in the box, but that's really not who he is. I don't think he is that guy. And maybe that's the biggest thing. Has he really played where he needs to play on the field at this point?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's been moved to every position you can move him, including right back. He was a right back last year.
That's why it's a very fair question, because when you're a professional footballer, sometimes things go wrong for you, and you have a season where you're played out of position. You have a manager that doesn't understand your quality, doesn't understand your strengths. This happens. But at some point, when you're a professional footballer, you have to find your way. You have to adapt. You have to find and you manufacture that confidence however you can. I love the way I talk about this like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like we're does he get the same lens if he came here on a free, or if he came here for like Damari Gray 1.5?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like sometimes these guys carry that price tag as their weight, like it's his fault. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm not coming unless you pay Arsenal 30-some million or whatever it was that they paid." I think it was close to that. So sometimes I think that just puts that microscope on somebody.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I'm really conflicted about it because I was actually expecting to see Gordon start.
Yeah, I was too.
And it's not like it's arbitrary. Benitez is not going to sit there and go, "Well, I thought it was good. I wanted to give Iwobi a chance." He's not going to say that, right? He's going to give you very specific, reasoning. May talk about how incisive he can be, like on the dribble. How he his short combinations with other players, has been beneficial in the past.
Yeah.
How he's very much a creator, a number 10 from the wing often. That's typically what his position is. So there's reasoning for it.
I felt like against West Ham too, it was about you're playing against a big, physical, strong team. I don't think Gordon is there yet physically. I do think against certain teams, I think Gordon gives you those runs. He gives you that energy. Mm-hmm. West Ham, and the way they were calling that game, does Gordon get those same runs? He's probably not fouled because they're not going to call anything. a bunch of times in that. So I do think that's probably what Benitez was thinking is like, I got to get a physical and Iwobi, whether you like him or you don't like, he is physical. He's a strong guy. I've seen him hold up. You're like, how did he just come out of that?
Yeah.
Gordon's probably not there with Gordon may never be there with his body. He may always be a speed guy that's going to get you with that quick burst and get by you.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, Benitez is a professional, football manager, right? He's professional. He's going to look at the pieces he has and he's going to assess them based on need, based on circumstance. And if Iwobi gives him the best chance of winning, it's not really going to be like, hey, let me give this other player a chance who doesn't have the same qualities. If he's got a player that he thinks is going to give him a better chance and has the same qualities, that's when he's going to give him that chance. Or if those players have different qualities that he needs for certain circumstances. But what you're talking about with West Ham, I get why he started Iwobi. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not against him starting in other games this season. I'm not.
No.
Situational. He's the manager. If we're performing well and doing well this season, and there's heart and grit, and we show flexibility tactically, and he starts sometime, I'm not gonna whine. I'm gonna go, hope he does well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be super cautious, and I'm not gonna be super confident, but I hope he rocks it out.
Yep.
I don't know. That's a great question, though, Yoshi. Last question from Reddit. What are your thoughts on how the Newcastle takeover will affect Everton? Challenging for the same type of players. Bigger question, has football lost its morality given the Premier League's acceptance to Newcastle's new owners that have questionable ethics? Who are on the Premier League committee that actually decides the standards? New ownership acceptance, and what is to say that there is actually a degree of corruption like FIFA had with Bladder? This is conjecture for now, but with a lack of actions taken against the snide 6 PL teams forming the Super League, and now a lack of moral compass, it makes me question the fairness that is being applied in football by overseeing Premier League governance team. Long post, sorry, but one that I'm keen to hear your thoughts on. I mean, it's hard. I question some of the ethics involved. I do. But I question a lot of ethics in life that we end up being okay with. It's weird. I probably don't live my values. I probably don't. So I may be a hypocrite talking about this. I don't know if I live my values, man. I don't know if I I wish that I didn't have to buy so much stuff from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's a lot of stuff like that. I wish I was, recently I bought a pair of Allbirds shoes, which are rocking, by the way. And they're all like sustainable and comfortable and awesome. And it made me feel like, hey, I'm living my values right now. I'm living my values, but I can't do that with all my clothes.
Yep.
I can't do that. I can't afford it. Stuff's expensive, man.
Yep.
I can't sit there and say, like, I believe food should be prepared like this. And so I'm going to go to Whole Foods and buy all my food from there. Can't do it.
Yep.
So yeah, I have an opinion about the ethics here, but I also have an opinion about a lot of stuff that I've had to be fine with in my life.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a morality play with all this stuff. I mean, we're playing a World Cup where,
right?
But if you take a look, like there's bad people that have owned clubs, teams everywhere in the world. And, how much of it are you cheering for that team or are you cheering for the owners?
Yeah.
And, if I were a Newcastle fan, I just want to see Newcastle win. And in the old days, would I have even known who was going to be that person that was going to take over and make my team win? I don't know that I would have had it not been for the mass media and the way it is. So it is hard to be able to be, like you said, that moral arbiter when I'm a grain of sand in this large desert that's out there. And so I think that's the real challenge in all this. And who's to say, I mean, we've already seen the Man Cities of the world. We've seen PSG, and this is another one of those clubs lining up in that same vein. And we saw all those things. If you're an Everton fan, we look at it and we go, yeah, that's not. But let's be honest with ourselves. If Everton's winning, do we overlook some of the things that our ownership group would do? Probably. Yeah. So it's hard for me to criticize and say that. And I feel like it jumped the shark a long time ago. I mean, it's the genie's out of the bottle, whatever you want to say. It's been long past to where this is the way it is. So there's an easy solution, but all of it is you turn your TV off. You don't buy the products, but that's not going to happen. We're all going to keep buying stuff. We're all going to keep watching the product because we love it.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense.
That's that's a really hard, deep question, by the way.
It is. So. No, and the thing is, we've gotten into it a little bit in the past. I don't know if it was last week, the week before. Jay Colton and I were talking about a little bit, but I mean, I think some people could accuse, I hear a lot of criticism of Usmanov that supposedly there's some, and he's obviously like Moshiri's buddy. I hear criticism about that. I don't know a whole lot about his financials. I don't know a whole lot about his contributions to the club. I don't know a whole lot about that stuff. So I can't sit there and defend a lot of that. I just know that when Moshiri came to the club, I had a lot of hope, and we started buying players, and we, bought managers for like a change. It was different. So it was strange. And there was a different kind of hope where you were like, man, we can be huge. And then we were like, let's buy 11 number 10s. Let's buy all the 10s, just every one of them. And let's play them all together. Let's make sure none of them have speed. Let's make sure none of them play with other players that have speed. And there we go.
Well, we knew we could bring in Big Sam if it got bad. So, I mean, we always had that as a default in our back pocket.
Oh, Sam, the gravy man. If I had some wine, I would drink a pint of wine for you, my friend.
And have your pie.
Yes. Oh gosh. Okay. Great question as always, Yoshi. Last tiny bit, and this is from Toffee Blues John to wrap this up before we do the Watford preview. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay? I agree.
It's not natural.
I don't like juicy stuff on pizzas.
No, it's not natural.
It's not my thing, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with Chris on this. Yes. And he also asked, what's your favorite film, Chris?
Ooh. Apocalypse Now is probably my favorite.
So I don't get to make people super jealous often, but I went to film school here at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and they had a 70 millimeter print of Apocalypse Now that I got to watch.
That is kind of making me a little jealous.
Massive screen. And it was wonderful. That's a really good movie. Just saying. Yeah. The interesting thing is and of course my film school education is slowly evaporating, but the film had a tint to it, like an orange tint.
Yeah.
And so because it's aged, so when I came out of the film, I'd been in there for like 3 hours. I come out, everything I saw was like green. and my professor had told us it was going to happen. He's like, just so you know, don't freak out. It'll be fixed. But
so when he said this movie is going to change your view of the world, he was being literally.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, and I had just and I had read Heart of Darkness like right before it again, so it was just a cool.
Yeah, it's
very neat.
The beach scene with the helicopters, just magic, movie magic.
The scene with the doors, the end at the end of the film
Yeah.
is jarring and holy crap. That's yes. And okay, accompany that. Have you seen Hearts of Darkness, the documentary
No,
made
I have not.
about the make? Watch that movie.
I need
It's
to.
about the making of it, and you'll just be dazzled by the fact that they even made it coherent.
Yeah.
That they somehow made that a coherent movie. Nuts. The film set was nuts. Like the actual making of that, because that was like those helicopters coming in were like a was like a real that was a real military, and they turned around and had to leave in the middle of a shot because they had to go to military stuff. Like something was happening. They had to leave. Crazy movie, man. What a crazy movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what a good choice. Um, so my personal like favorite is I the movie I grew up watching was Goonies. I say that. But if I go movie nerd, there's an Italian film by Federico Fellini called 8½, and it's about a film director and somebody who studied directing, is like me. It was a very pivotal film for me as a human, and kind of discovering that I wanted to make movies and the type of films I wanted to make. And so, yeah, 8½, Italian. It's weird. Don't expect to love it if you watch it, everybody. So yeah, and it's from the 60s. I like 60s cinema for some reason. 60s foreign cinema, oddly enough. All right, so moving on. Watford is happening whether we like it or not. We may need Watford right now, to be honest. Their current form, they're 16th in the table, 2-1-5 with 7 points. Most recently, they had a real nail biter with the Reds. Somehow Liverpool squeaked by 5-0. Gosh. Before that, they lost 1-0 to Leeds. Before that, they drew 1-1 with Newcastle. And before that, they lost 3-1 to Stoke in the Carabao Cup. Watford just not having a great season.
Yeah.
Just not having a great season. I will say a player I've admired for years now is Milas Sarr. Will probably be starting for them. I could list the starters, but to be honest with you, I feel like it's dishonest. I don't know that these starters are actually going to play. I checked a couple of websites, got their opinions, pulled them together, and yeah, I feel like cheating if I'm going to say that out loud. Tom Cleverley may start, is what I will say.
And he's played for them for about 80 years. Has he been there that long? So
since he left us,
I feel like Tom Cleverley has been there since he left us, and he's just going to stay. So
since he left us, he's another player I wanted to do really well because I felt like nobody wanted him to do well.
Yeah.
And he just didn't do well. Yeah. And so it's one of those where I'm always like, yeah, I hope he's okay. I mean, I know he's I think the thing I remembered most fondly about Tom Cleverley is he seemed like his relationship was decently healthy with his wife, who seemed like she was doing okay. Is what I'll say.
That's nice.
Yeah. So and Sissoko will probably start for them. Danny Rose, players that we've been linked to in the past.
Yep.
So yeah, I will be disappointed if we don't win this one. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. I think we'll see a reaction. I really do.
Yeah.
If we have enough players to actually put an 11 out on the field. So
Pickford's obviously going to start, but are we going to see Coleman, Mina, Godfrey, Keane, and Luka Dean, or are we just going to see Coleman, two of those three center backs, and Luka Dean? See, that's the question here. We don't actually know. We do. I'm leaning toward the back five. I don't necessarily want it though. I don't know who slots in the middle. I love the idea of JPG just coming in and being like this great story, man.
Yep. I mean, I think if I had to look at it, I still think it's kind of that 4-4-2-ish, and I think he's going to put JP in and going to give it a shot, and I'm going to pretend like that's what's going to happen.
I love the idea of it. I just don't know if he's ready to put that kind of pressure on him.
Yeah,
I don't know. Imagine he comes in and I want to gradually work him in and get him. I want to get some minutes out of him first
before he tears something, pulls something, ends up in surgery.
Oh,
yeah,
guys just had some rotten luck. I could see Davies playing. I could.
Yep.
He's been healthy. I haven't seen a lot of Andre Gomes. He has not been healthy. So yeah, I could see Davies slotting in there.
Yeah. I just see that happening with a back four, but Benitez has forgotten more about football than what I know. So maybe he's got a better plan, and maybe it is a back five. I don't know. Just seems odd against a team like Watford.
Something that I just thought of, dude. What if Godfrey or Holgate playing with taking the Decore spot?
Everybody always said Holgate should have been a 6.
He's not bad. I don't know about his passing ability. Neither of those two guys can pass the way Decore does. But you'll at least have a ball winner in there.
You said passing ability with Mason Holgate, and that just made me crack up for a second. So.
It should, right? Oh man.
He thinks. Here's the thing though about Mason Holgate. He believes he has passing ability, and I love that about him because he has this ultimate confidence that he can do it. It doesn't always happen for him. So.
Man, I'd love to see him get in the form that he was in a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be a thing. I can't believe we weren't thinking about this solution earlier about that possibility because Godfrey has played that position for Norwich.
Yeah. I mean, technically, if you went with a back five and put Godfrey in that position, could he not push up a little bit, play kind of that holding 6 in front of the 4? Mm-hmm. You still get the same effect out of it. So I would be curious. I mean, I feel like Benitez is one of those guys that as much as he'd love to have everybody, I think he's also one of those guys that is kind of like, I like this challenge of seeing how I can. And what I love about him is the in-game adjustments because it's not just sit over there and watch as the game unfolds, maybe throw a couple guys on at the end. I mean, he really made an adjustment during the West Ham game that almost worked out because we looked like a different team in the second half. So
he's done it a few times.
Yeah. So, I do think we get the win this weekend. So I feel confident, which means that we'll probably lose, but that's okay too. So life will continue to spin. The world will continue to spin. So that's the way it is.
I'll be curious if it's Iwobi or if it's Gordon. Very curious about that. I don't know. Again, I thought Iwobi was better in the second half in a different position. I'm curious. I think we'll definitely see Townsend, Gray, and Rondon in the Milan. It's just the others are the mystery.
I kind of like your thought though in the slot. Put Gordon out on the wing, slot Gray in. It kind of that pseudo number 10, but then let him be flexible and go to either wing and do what he wants to do. So, because that guy's so good on the ball.
What's the score?
I've got 3-1.
3-1. I've just got 2-1 just because it's a little bit of a rebound and we're missing some pieces. And I'm a little worried about that. I still think we're going to win though. I get paranoid that we've both picked a win, and just because Watford has not had that successful a season.
You're doing that classic Everton fan thing right now.
Yeah,
you're thinking about everything that could. Let's see, Watford hasn't won in a while, which means they're probably due, which means that they'll probably come out and play, and they have a lot of guys that we've liked in the past.
Yeah.
Well, we all go through it.
Time, as a supporter, every time I tend to look past a team, those are that burn, and that's why I just caught myself. It's kind of like when you're meditating and your brain has gone to a different place, and you catch yourself and you're like, hey, wandering, thinking, what's going on?
We don't have Carlo Ancelotti now, so we actually do. Like, I'm not sure that he would have even known we were playing Watford. Like, he knew the big. But like these games, I was always kind of wondering, did he just like show up on Friday and say, who we got? All right, I'm going to drink my coffee.
Yeah.
So I do think Benitez actually cares and wants to win matches.
He does.
All the matches. So we'll see.
If for nothing else, to be able to throw it in our face at the end and be like, see, I didn't suck.
I told you I live in Liverpool. I have friends who are Blues.
Yes. I know. I've seen the color blue before. I've played against them many times. All right. So that is actually the end of the show. That's it. You've survived. So Chris, first off, thanks for coming on. This has been awesome. Gateway Toffees, any last little plugs or shout outs you wanna put in here?
Just shout out to my buddy and Jeremy, and he wanted to be coming on this as well. Couldn't be tonight. So shout out to Jeremy. Thank you for all he does in the background, helping us to get this started. And hey, thanks for having us on. Greatly appreciate it. Learned a lot tonight. No Turkish horror movies, so I will keep that.
But yeah, man. So Chris, thanks so much. Hopefully we can have you on again. This was an absolute pleasure. Love talking to you. Hopefully I get to visit the city of Cincinnati. Hopefully I get to watch the brand new MLS team that's coming in a couple years, which you are sporting right now. There you go, St. Louis City. It's a cool logo. I feel like you gotta. I feel like it's the new team that people are sleeping on, that I'm very excited to see, because people are forgetting that they're happening. So very excited for you. And very cool to see. I would love to have Jeremy on as well. Get to know him and weird him out as well. And anybody in the St. Louis area, the Amsterdam, okay?
Be there.
Get there and hang out with these cool fellas.
Yeah, come out and watch us beat the Orange. So
do my end of show spiel. If you're digging what you're hearing or seeing, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel and or podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Check out the Toffee Blues website. Some work's been done onto that site, so check out all the content that some cool folks, some diehard Evertonians have been putting out there. Most of them, some are U.S. based, some are England based, some are neither. So check that out. Check out what they've been churning out up there. They're cool. It's really smart, and I get to be in a message group for them, dropping knowledge on me. And yes. There's that. Follow the Toffee Blues on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And that's it. Show over. Chris, have yourself a good night. I'm gonna go transfer all this footage and have a beer and hang out with my wife for nine minutes.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, thanks again for having me on. Anytime, love to come back on. So
that would be great. Thanks so much. By the way, your Wes Anderson setup in your living room is just so symmetrical and beautiful. It's awesome. So I was like halfway through and I was like, it's Wes Anderson. That's what I'm seeing right now. That's so great. So anyway,
do what you can.
All right, everybody else out there, thanks so much. Let's get 3 points. I feel like we should this weekend. Let's do it. Try not to bathe or bask in the despair. Decoria will be back. We're gonna figure out something. It'd be crazy if Rafa gets us some points within his stretch. So yeah. All right, 3 points. Let's do it, everybody. Much love. Take care. We're out. Bye.
See ya.